Hello. Sorry, my computer decided to restart.
Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome. This is our show Dive In. I'm Liz Taylor, ocean explorer, naturalist, and entrepreneur.
I'm Sylvia Earle. I'm an oceanographer, National Geographic explorer, founder of Mission Blue, and an ocean elder. Thank you, ocean elders, for hosting this whatever it is.
Sharktober conversation.
There we go.
So this is our show Dive In, where we host informal and open conversations with the ocean community from around the world on topics of wonder and interest. You can ask questions by writing in the Q&A box, and we'll get to as many as we can toward the end of the program. And watch the chat box for some informational links as well. And let's begin by reminding everyone that the world is blue. Today, we are continuing Sharktober with conversations about sharks and the amazing people who study them. And we are so thrilled to be bringing back the women of MISS, Minorities in Shark Science. We have Carlee Jackson, Jasmin Graham, Jaida Elcock, and Amani Webber-Schultz all joining us today from various places in the field. And when we first connected almost 3 years ago, I can't believe it's been almost 3 years ago.
Almost exactly 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
None of you had ever met each other in person. And it was wild. So we're really eager to hear about how that went on, and how you guys came together and made that commitment to sharks and to shark science. And what was it like when you all finally met up?
I think that it was amazing. We first all met up for the first time during when we were getting ready for our first in-person workshops, where we go with Miami Field School or Field School in Miami, and we go out for a weekend shark tagging with some of our participants and some of our members. It was Jasmin driving down, and Carlee picked up Amani and I from the airport. Amani and I being like the youngest of the four of us and being very excitable and energetic. Carlee immediately texted Jasmin and was like, "There's so much energy in my car." And it was very funny. So I think that really set our dynamic of like Carlee as like our older sister, Amani and I as like the rambunctious young twins, Jasmin's like the mom, kind of corralling us all together. But it was a really fun interaction for the first time for all of us to, finally meet each other in person just as individuals, and then kind of jump into our first, I guess, sort of business endeavor together to do the workshop together. And it went really smoothly and everyone had a really good time. So it was awesome.
That's outstanding. Okay, so now I'm having a little technical glitch here because my this computer that we're on does not want to let me share the screen.
What?
Do any of you have access to your to the PowerPoint presentation? All right.
I don't think we do. Jasmin does, but Jasmin's not here.
Jasmin does, but Jasmin's running late. Okay, so we're gonna play around here. I don't want to disrupt everything, so I think we should just continue to chat here for a minute. And when Jasmin comes in, we are going to ask her to share the presentation.
Sounds great.
A good deal. All right, so let's talk about some of the work that you guys have been doing. And Carlee, you've been working mostly with the nurse sharks and their tourism impact. The last time we spoke, how's that been going?
Yeah, I'm actually gearing up to publish that research by the end of this year. So just been, yes, finally. But yeah, that's really the biggest update right now is just publishing that research. And I'm also in contact with some people down in Belize trying to get the research restarted back down there because since I left, there really hasn't been anything that continued specifically in Keekulker with the nurse sharks. And we're trying to get some more baseline data on the health of the nurse sharks there so that we can actually do some more hands-on sample collecting from the sharks instead of just video recording. But there is still a lot that we're able to get from the videos, ask different questions than the ones that I did in my thesis so that we can actually review the videos and look for different things besides like just the behavior of the nurse sharks and look at how just different things are interacting within those videos. So yeah, that's the update on that research.
That's really cool, because the tourism around sharks has just kind of exploded, I
Yeah,
think,
it
and it's a great way for people, like in our last dive in, we talked with the Saving Our Sharks group in Mexico, and they're trying to get the fishermen to kind of give up fishing for sharks and instead embracing more tourism for sharks
And be guardians.
but it's a tricky intersection.
For sure. And there's definitely some fishermen nowadays who have to switch over to tourism because some of their fish stocks are unfortunately depleting. So that's another, that's a big thing happening in Belize. Some of their fish populations are declining. So a lot of fishermen have to, I know. Yeah.
Right?
About killing the golden grouper.
The golden grouper, exactly.
Yep, the grouper. Yeah.
Too much, and it's hard to know when to stop. I mean, it's when fish that once were just a source of food, and you're really taking wild animals as a source of sustenance, you couldn't take too many because you'd starve. You knew that there were limits, but when fish become money, you sell the last one because they're too valuable to keep them alive in a way, not relying on them just for money. Then it just changes the dynamic.
Absolutely. And Jaida, you've been working on elasmobranch migrations as well. It's another really interesting piece of the puzzle when it comes to shark conservation.
And rays too.
And rays. Can you tell us a bit about your updates on your work?
Absolutely, yeah. So right now I'm actually writing a thesis proposal to take my qualifying exam. So super excited to get past this step and start really diving into the research. But I'm going to be focusing most likely on specifically basking shark and whale shark migrations. They're out here in like the Northwest Atlantic, but they're not always super well studied, specifically in this region. And so looking into a little bit more about why are they here, what resources are useful to them, looking into, I guess, kind of the energetics of their migrations, and what resources are useful to them. And I think that could be really useful in understanding how those like critical resources are going to be changing for them as we continue to change the ocean. So just trying to put a couple of those puzzle pieces together so we can just better understand what's going on with their migration. And they're the two largest fish on the planet, so who wouldn't want to work with them? They're awesome. So really excited about it.
Awesome. Yeah, and it really ties in like with the Mission Blue Hope spots that Sylvia's been working on and trying to get this sort of communication going on between countries to really protect some of the swimways that these animals use. And it's really been interesting because we'll see some of these animals will traverse these huge pieces of the ocean, and they'll be protected in some spots but not in others, and
exactly.
It's daunting.
Yeah, conservation of highly migratory species definitely gets a little bit more complicated because of how many different jurisdictions they are traveling through. So it's definitely like a multi-country, potentially multi-continent like effort to try and conserve certain species because of how far they travel. So the more we can understand, I think the better chance we have of being able to create an effective conservation solution.
Absolutely.
So I was just in Mozambique along the coast of East Africa, and the wonderful thing about the few days that I spent there, we did some observations by helicopter, and we saw dozens of whale sharks, and we also saw migrating humpback whales and turtles and dugongs. So it's just this
dugongs are the
big creature,
cool
migratory pathway. And it's not just Mozambique, of course, it is the whole eastern seaboard of Africa, right down to the tip of South Africa, and the whales go all the way to Antarctica. So to your point about looking at migrations and the need, they don't know where our boundaries are. I mean, if the sharks made the rules or the whales made the rules, the ocean would be looked at with very different eyes, different perspectives.
And Amani, you were starting, when we last spoke, you were really focused in on looking at I guess you started off looking at fossilized organisms of various kinds, and then that led you into looking at fossil shark teeth and research. And I saw that you've been working on the remoras, those guys that hang out with the sharks. But what are some updates on your research?
Oh goodness, the last time we talked, I don't even think I was in my PhD program yet.
No.
So I'm in my third year of my PhD, which is crazy. I finished my qualifying exam in June of this year, which was very exciting. I'm so happy to be done with it. And now I'm focusing on what we can learn from sharks in terms of how they move around in their environment so that we can learn how to better move around in the ocean. So I'm kind of looking at how we learn things from nature when it comes to things like our infrastructure or ability to explore with things like ROVs. And I'm specifically looking at their scales because their scales are super cool. And the average person does not realize that sharks have scales because you can't really see them with your naked eye. And I just absolutely love researching it. And I'm really excited to eventually publish some really cool stuff that I have going on right now.
It's just great to hear about all the work you guys are doing, and just trying to get others engaged as well. It's such important, valuable work. From the time I've been involved in science and exploration, it's been wonderful just to see like the number of women increasing in the sciences, but the number of in the diversification of women in science has just been awesome, and you guys are leading the way. It's wonderful to see.
Yeah. And at the same time, I believe that there is a movement growing about protecting sharks and rays. When I first began exploring the ocean some years ago, it was thought that the only good shark was a dead shark. This inexplicable fear, I guess, that is perpetrated by legends, stories, but certainly not by the truth. And right now, especially with kids, they love sharks. They are shark champions like you. I mean, it's like, these are not creatures that we should fear. We should fear an ocean without sharks. And it's kind of encouraging, mostly on a species by species, country by country, or some overarching policies about shipping shark fins and things of that sort. But overall, there is a growing movement. Just don't kill sharks. It worked with whales. It took a while, but people have stopped killing whales commercially around the world. Maybe we can get the same thing going for sharks. Why kill sharks? They're good guys and gals.
And somehow I've done this little workaround. So I'm attempting to share the screen now. So I hope you guys can see the presentation now. Yes?
All right.
Yes. So let's talk about what Miss has been up to, and this really the work on what does it take to get equitable representation in shark sciences.
Yeah, thanks. So like it says here, our vision is for there to be equitable representation and for that to be the norm and not the exception. And so right now we have the status quo is such that not a lot of communities of color in the global South are engaged or have a seat at the table in conservation. And in order to make conservation work, you have to have everybody involved and everyone has to have buy-in. Everyone has to know what's going on, and everyone has to be able to use their collective voice to make things happen. So we're really pushing for that equitable representation so that we can make MPAs that actually work, so that we can have rules and regulations that we've all agreed upon as a collective society, because we all share the same planet. And we all share the same oceans, and so we should all be involved in making those decisions to conserve the beautiful planet that we have.
Absolutely, 1000%.
So what have we been up to? So we have over 400 members now, representing more than 30 US states and territories and over 30 countries. So we now have a global network of scientists all doing shark research and conservation. Our members identify as gender minorities of color, and then we also have about 75 friends of Miss, who are folks who don't identify as gender minorities of color, but are doing shark research and conservation and want to support this mission and this vision of having equitable representation in science. So we have monthly professional development events and social events to build community, for us to collaborate together, to learn about what each other are doing, and share what's worked in certain places to see if we can try and make that work in other places so we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
That's a great thing to have that, capacity to be so inclusive of just to get everybody on board.
Yeah, 30 countries. That's impressive. Yep.
Yeah, it's a pretty, I'm really surprised that we were able to build that large of a network in just 3 years. And as we do that, we're doing more education and outreach. So we're able to reach communities all over where our members are. We have these little outreach boxes that have information and things that we can use to teach people about sharks and their importance. And we send those out to members so they can go out in the communities and educate people about the importance of sharks and move everyone from fear to fascination.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I love seeing the sawfish bill
Yeah.
there. And I can remember spending time in Florida and there were just like they were just stacked up in barrels and stuff sold in curio shops and so forth. And then you see how few there are today. And it's such important work to get the word out about the sawfish being in that elasmobranch group as well.
Yeah, it has to be cool to care instead of being cool to kill. I think it just has to be this moment where we can shift the dynamic to really protecting all sharks and rays, sawfish, all the elasmobranchs. These are ancient creatures. They're here a long time before humans. I mean, very long before there were even bony fishes. So, we should really respect them.
Yeah, and I think with that respect, you got to learn about things, because right now, what people know is Jaws and all of the scary shark movies. And so that's not an accurate representation of who sharks are and what they do and the important role that they play in the ecosystem. So we're really big on educating. Carlee does a really good job of using our social media platform to talk to people about the importance of sharks. And Jaida has started this Shark Madness. Jaida, do you want to talk about Shark Madness?
Yes, please.
I always want to talk about Shark Madness. Absolutely. Okay. So if you've ever heard of March Madness, the basketball teams, they go head to head, they come out with a championship game, and the champion is whatever. I'm sure they get a lot of money, but in our case, our shark just gets bragging rights. But basically we have, I think it's 32 sharks, and they go head to head every day. There's a different round. We have our members will make a video about here's our 2 contenders for the day. And then on a couple different social media platforms, we'll have our audiences vote of which shark they like best based on the information that we've provided to them. And the bracket slowly gets smaller and smaller until at the end we have a winner shark. We have people, place their guesses as to which shark is going to win. We have like a point system for the brackets. The top 3 bracket winners get prizes and everything. So it's a really fun way to kind of get people to know more about some, I guess, obscure sharks. We like to include some that aren't quite as famous as the others. And it's a great way to get our members involved with some science communication as well. So it's a ton of fun. And I look forward to it every single year.
That's outstanding.
It's awesome.
And then talk about these camps that you guys are undertaking. I love just seeing, you say no child left dry, but that's some of the best things, the best experiences I remember as a kid is just getting out, getting, wet and muddy and also doing science.
Yeah. Looking.
Yeah. So we have spring break camp and we have summer camp. And it's a really fun experience for the kids. Carlee was leading our spring break camp, so I'll let her talk about what that experience was like.
Yeah, our spring break camp, this was our first one this year. It happened earlier this spring. And the really cool thing about all of our camps is that we're teaching, not only are we teaching marine science, but we're teaching how to be a scientist. So at the end of the camp, everyone has to present a research project that they present using the scientific method. So they learn these different subjects throughout the week, and then they learn about the scientific method and how they can apply it to the different subjects that they learned about during that week. And this specific summer camp, they learned about marine chemistry. So we were able to stay in a marine chemistry lab over at USF, University of South Florida, at Moat Marine Lab. They have a chemistry lab there, and the kids were able to use different chemistry equipment to test water. They were able to test like the tank water that they had in some of the saltwater tanks there, and you know, they were able to use high-end equipment at a university that they might not have, you know, ever been exposed to before. So that was really cool. Then they were also exposed to some engineering topics, and then finally some marine science and hands-on like fieldwork stuff that you can see in this picture. So it was a really fun camp. And like I said, the kids learned the scientific method. And once they figured out like what kind of question they wanted to ask, they had to figure out how they were going to collect their data. And it's pretty much a crash course because this is all within like 2 days, but they're supposed to use their environment to create their science project. So it's a very well-rounded program for them. So they're learning different subjects and how to apply them. So it's really, and the kids love it. They, as you can see, they're all just in the water. I think that day, one of the kids actually submerged themselves, and I was like, this is not a swimming, we're not swimming. But you know what, whatever, you're excited, so go right ahead. But yeah, that was spring break camp this year.
That's awesome. But it does really point, you know, about how just the accessibility to water and the need to have swimming is kind of a, you know, a key life skill, can really make a difference for people that want to study not only sharks, but any kind of aquatic animal. It's almost like a barrier in some ways. And so it's great that, as I recall, one of you is a competitive swimmer, right?
Oh yeah, that's me.
That's
What?
you. That's so yeah, so science is go on.
Science at the Sea is sort of a smaller scale version of our summer camp and our spring break camp, where kids come out for a day. And so we partner with local schools and do field trips. We work with school groups like the Boys and Girls Club and other community groups that are serving kids. And they get a chance to come out and do science by the ocean. And even though a lot of these kids live near the ocean, they don't get to interact with it. And so it's an opportunity to bring them out and tell them about watersheds and like, hey, the things that you do on land affect our ocean, even if you don't realize it. And so it's a really cool opportunity to get to talk to kids and their parents. So sometimes we have family days. So we have one coming up this Saturday, actually, where it's everyone, a big community gathering. And we're super excited to talk to not only kids, but their parents, because once you get kids excited, it's pretty easy to get their parents invested as well.
Oh yeah, they have no choice. They're just like beating on them all the time. We could do this, we could do that, yeah. Which is great. But it's so important, because the things that, you know, it starts on the land oftentimes when it comes to marine conservation.
Hear, hear.
Look at those whale shark leggings. Those are awesome.
So yeah, I'm gonna let Amani talk about the workshops that we do. You can see that pictured here. Amani, you want to tell them about the workshops?
Yeah, absolutely. Conveniently, our workshops are in like a week from now.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, so we do annual workshops every year, which was the whole founding idea with Miss, was if we could do one thing every year, it would be the workshops. And we basically open up applications and invite roughly 19 of our gender minorities of color to come out, and they spend a weekend on the boat with us down in Miami with Field School, who graciously donates their boat and their time for us to do this for a weekend. And it's completely paid for. So we pay for all their flights, we pay for their food, any Ubers that they need to, with the idea being that their finances and financial situation is not going to affect their ability to participate in something like this. And it's really geared towards beginning scientists who are over the age of 18, but kind of unsure if marine science is what they want to do, and if so, what within marine science they want to do, because we all know marine science is way broader than you are led to believe when you are a child.
Yeah.
So we have them out and we basically spend the entire weekend fishing for sharks for scientific research. So we catch them, we collect a whole bunch of different scientific data that contributes to some decently long data sets down in Miami. And then we let them go. And throughout this workshop, we also do a bunch of different, we do career talks, we do kind of a get real talk with questions that they maybe wouldn't want to ask in any other scenario, but in a safe place where you can be really open and truthful. They can ask us those questions. And it's honestly just a really fun weekend. I look forward to it every year. And I'm really excited that we get to go do this in a week.
Yeah, that's it. I want to hear what goes on there.
So we have, they come in on Fridays. These are some amazing pictures. They come in on a Friday and leave on a Sunday. So it is purely like 48 hours of crazy marine science thrown at your face. They learn two different fishing methods. They learn how to drumline and how to longline, which are both very popular with doing scientific research on sharks. And we'll catch them, we'll bring them up onto the boat, or we'll put them on a platform. We have a pipe that goes into their mouth that pushes water over their gills, so they're completely safe during the entire workup. And all of our workshop attendees get to help with this. So they all get to touch a shark, which in my opinion is one of my favorite things, watching someone see a live shark for the first time that is not behind a glass at an aquarium. Everybody has the exact same face and everyone has the exact same excited look at the end when they realize that they've seen their first shark or touched their first shark, which I think is really awesome.
That is very cool.
Then we also support fellowships for folks to go and do internships from anywhere from 1 to 3 months at different partner institutions. So these are some of the partners that we work with. Our fellowships also have a global reach, just like our members. So this past year, we sent folks to Love the Oceans, which is in Mozambique, to Bimini Biological Field Station in the Bahamas, to Rookery Bay, and to Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. And this year, we are adding in Smithsonian Environmental Research Center. So we'll, for the first time, be sending fellows to the Smithsonian, which is pretty exciting.
Excellent. You were just in Mozambique, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago.
A couple weeks ago, yeah. So, but did you see any sharks?
Our fellow that was there
Yes.
last year saw a whale shark. It was her very first dive, and she saw a whale shark, which does not seem fair.
No, that's not fair at all. You saw whale sharks when you were there, you said, right?
Yes, we were mostly during helicopter surveys along the coast. Whale sharks, humpback whales, turtles, the African version of manatees, the dugongs.
Dugongs, yeah.
Yeah. And even some big rays. So, and last week I was in the Cayman Islands where rays, especially the southern stingray, they're celebrities. People pay big bucks for the privilege of going out and standing in very shallow water and allowing the rays to come and slather over their feet and sometimes get a nice gentle southern stingray hug. It was really quite remarkable. It was estimated that each of those rays that engage with humans brings to the Cayman Islands at least $500,000 worth of revenue every year. So it's really makes not just sense, but dollars and cents to protect the rays. There are many reasons why you shouldn't harm them, but when you can make it an economic driver for them to be alive rather than dead, cooked, were sold off for their gill rakers, new market for the gill rakers of rays. And it's not a tradition. It's truly just a new market.
Yeah.
That has been created in the last 20 years or so. And manta rays are disappearing very quickly as a consequence. And other rays are vulnerable too. It's all about marketing something for money. Wildlife turned into business opportunity, but think about keeping them alive. And if I have to use a business opportunity as an excuse, then there are plenty of reasons to do that, or ways to do that, like whale shark watching, not just whale watching, but whale shark watching. And don't touch them, don't harm them, you just enjoy their presence.
Just check them out.
Yeah.
And I think this slide about diversifying ocean science is another, huge way that is very helpful, economically, that, you make those good paying jobs available to a much broader sector of people. And it really helps communities of all kinds.
And stimulate their curiosity.
Yes, remain curious. But, so I see here you're doing looks like a CTD cast, and what else is going on in this slide?
Yeah, I'll let Jaida talk about that. She was out there with them for that.
So Diversifying Ocean Sciences is a newer program that we have. It was this year funded by the Barancik Foundation. I believe that we're still getting at least part of our funding from the Barancik Foundation next year. But so we basically had, this year we had this was our first year, so we were trying it out. Thanks to all of our guinea pig students who seem to have had a blast and a half at all these different locations. But so we had 3 different concentrations. We had 30 students. And so 10 students would go to each different concentration for an in-person workshop after we did months of all together online curriculum. That's the word I was looking for. So we would do things like, let's talk about oceanography. We had lessons on CV and resume building. We had lessons on fieldwork and all kinds of different things online, and like little assignments to go with it so they can get, a taste for every bit and piece of marine science that we could give them in such a short amount of time. And then they all split off into their different concentrations. We had one out where I'm at in Massachusetts with Atlantic White Shark Conservancy and Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. That's the picture on the left here where we have a CTD cast, and we've got all of our Niskin bottles, and we were learning how to set up the Niskin bottles. We were looking at the data. We collected a bunch of the water samples. We collected sediment samples and sediment cores. We did a small plankton tow. And so we did a whole bunch of different oceanographic sampling just to give them a taste of what could you possibly see on one of these boats. They also were able to do drone stuff with Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. They all went out and saw their first ever white shark. I unfortunately didn't get to go on that part of the trip because I had COVID at the time, but Amani was there and she said that she had a blast. It was amazing. So I'm really jealous, but it was super cool. They got the chance to drive ROVs in a tank at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. And the students had just the best time, and their presentations at the end of the week to kind of show us, here's what I learned. Here's my path forward. Here's what I wanted to do. And has that changed? If so, how and why? And a lot of them just expressed that they had gotten so much more comfortable in themselves as scientists and their abilities, and expressed that they had found some like new ideas of, maybe this is a new path that I could take. But so we had our Cape Cod concentration. We had one at UC Merced. That was our lab techniques. And then we had one with field school, and that was field techniques. So the 3 different concentrations were, lab techniques, field techniques, and marine technology. And from what we saw, all the students really had a really great time. And so now we've changed up things a little bit for this next year, just, funding differences and everything, but that's where we're adding in the Smithsonian as well. So we're excited to see what kind of new adventures we're going on in a couple of these new places. So it's a really great program, and we're excited to see where it continues to go.
And then getting out into the conferences as well, super important. We've got, DEMA coming up. We've got What else is coming up? AGU coming up here in San Francisco
Well, the
in December.
Conference is happening in Abu Dhabi.
But yeah, the big COP, what is it, COP
In
28?
Dubai.
Yeah, COP 28 in Dubai. So,
Mhm.
you know, it's a really key part of I think any marine science program, but especially in communicating.
Yeah.
But you guys have been just, you know, on fire getting the word out. So tell us about some of the conferences you've been at.
Yeah, so Miss had a presence at Sharks International last year. Amani went to that. We also have had a presence at the joint meeting of ichthyologists and herpetologists for the past 3 years. Last year, we attended the Society for Integrative and Comparative Biology, and we're coming back again in January for our official Miss Summit. So this will be our biggest gathering. We'll be bringing 45 people from six different countries, 45 people from 6 different countries, gathering all together to talk about sharks and form collaborative research projects and hopefully address some data deficient fisheries in the areas from the countries that we're bringing folks from. So that'll be super exciting.
Excellent. And are you collaborating with any of the, like, are there any of the, or thinking about doing any of the dive resorts or the dive operators, like how we could, you know, more closely align some of the scuba diving community into helping with the shark research?
Yeah, so we actually have a member named Deb, who you'll see her name on the book in a couple slides. She works very closely with the American Shark Conservancy. There she is, Deborah Santos de Azevedo. And she is working on community building with dive shops in Florida and doing a lot of work there with integrating that community science into practice. And so she just had a baby or is about to have a baby. Her due date was like yesterday. So after she comes back, we're hoping to expand upon that. And I know Carlee has done a lot of work with ecotourism as a community science resource. So we're hoping to integrate that even more. And this is the book that we published last year. It has 30 different Miss members research in it. And so if you want to learn more about the research that's being done, including Deb's work with the dive shops, that's all available in there. And some of our members in the Global South working with data deficient fisheries, doing really, really important work in the fronts of conservation in Brazil, India, Sri Lanka, Qatar, and the Persian Gulf as a whole. So really cool work to see there if you're interested. It's available anywhere books are sold.
We have to get some for our dive shop.
For sure.
Get one of you to come out for a book signing or something. It'd be fun.
Yeah, definitely.
And so here's all your contact details. I think Gigi's put them in the chat too, but you feel like social media is helping get the word out with you guys as well. I see you all the time on Instagram and X, Twitter, you know. So how's
Yeah,
that?
that's all
Carlee. Yeah. Oh, Carlee.
Yeah, social media is definitely probably the main way that we get our word out. We have about 11.5 or so K followers on Instagram, 12,000 followers on Twitter, like 2,500 followers on Facebook, and we also have people within our followers that share a lot. They repost a lot of our posts to their stories. So Instagram or social media in general is a good way to keep up with Miss and all that we do. And shameless plug, we have our Sharkathon fundraiser starting up next month. So it's a fundraiser that we have every year where people can create fundraising teams to donate and fundraise for Miss, and those who raise the most money, they get prizes at the end of our fundraiser. So we're trying to raise $30,000 by the end of this year. And yeah, if you follow us on our social media, then you should have seen an announcement getting everyone ready for Sharkathon before it kicks off next month.
And there'll
Excellent.
be really fun activities. There'll
Yes.
be cookie decorating shark cookies. There will be a paint and sip where you'll be painting sharks. There will be a crochet a shark where we'll be crocheting little stuffed sharks and making shark ornaments. So all throughout the months of November and December, we'll be having little fun things for people to make little fun sharks and crafts, as we say.
Sharks and crafts, I like that. All right, we're going to jump over to some questions now. So Jeannie is asking, do you think fading out industrial fishing practices and switching to smaller scale indigenous fishing practices can be a feasible solution to mitigate bycatch and lower target species waste? Who wants that one?
I can
We know
take
you
that
can-
one.
Okay,
No,
go for it,
no.
Yeah,
Jasmine.
Jaida, you want to go for it? Go for it, Jaida.
I mean, I guess I was just going to say, I think that, is that a way to decrease bycatch? Sure. Is it feasible? Is a completely different question, because the ocean realistically is very crucial to feeding our planet. There are so many people on this planet, and so it's going to take large scale fisheries to be able to get enough food to feed everyone. But I don't think that it's feasible to just completely phase out large scale fishing. I think that there needs to be more of a conversation around how exactly to mitigate bycatch within large scale fisheries. Ideally, it would be great to not have large scale fisheries and to just kind of focus on like subsistence fishing, and indigenous and small scale fishing practices. But whether or not that's feasible in order to feed our planet and everyone that needs to be fed, I think is a different question.
But here's the thing.
And
Already 90% of many of the big fish are gone. So realistically, thinking that we can scale up or even continue at the level that we're now taking, it just doesn't seem realistic to think that wildlife in the ocean is a viable source of feeding a lot of people. Right now, about 40% of the food that is grown is not ever used, it's wasted. We need to get more efficient about using what we've got, not throwing away or losing so much in the supply chain from farm to plate, and to look at the other values that ocean wildlife have. Going back to when I was a kid, it seemed the ocean was so big, so vast, that nothing we could do could harm or cause the ocean to decline. But now the evidence, and one of the problems right now is that fleets, millions of tons of wildlife. Like, imagine trying to feed people with songbirds or other wildlife. There are limits to what we can take from wild places. And the squid that are now being extracted by the ton are vital for life in the sea, for the birds, for the whales, for some of the turtles, certainly for the sharks. And there's no need for us to eat squid. And yet, from when I was a kid to today, squid, calamari, if you will, it's become like popcorn. It's all over the world in restaurants. Or shrimp. Shrimp was not as popular. It just didn't exist in markets that weren't really close to the shore. But the ocean is being heavily compromised. And there's a connection to climate. And I'd like to suggest that you and anybody else who's listening, just ask the questions, just check it out. How do sharks relate to climate? How does squid relate to climate? How does the ocean, life in the ocean, relate to climate? When you think they're all carbon, like trees, they're carbon based. That's where carbon is captured and held. And if we are to solve the climate problem, we have to think about keeping trees in the ground, fish in the sea, squid, and the other creatures that hold the planet, the chemistry of the planet, the stability of the planet. And I do take your point about we need to eat something. We're animals too. We don't photosynthesize. But in order to feed 8 billion people, it's 4 times the number of people than when I was your age. The pressure we're putting on the ocean, on the natural world overall, is probably one of the most serious challenges that we have to face. How do we make space for ourselves and still have a planet that works in our favor? And one of the keys right now, we've got 2 big treaties that are in motion. One of them to protect the high seas, which is where most of the industrial fishing now is taking place. But there are only like a dozen countries, 5 countries in particular, out of the nearly, more than 200 countries. But a small fraction is really disproportionately out there taking ocean wildlife on a huge scale. Most of it does not go to feed people. It goes to feed farm animals. It goes to make fertilizer. It goes to luxury markets. It's a choice, not a necessity. So I think the concept of feeding people from ocean wildlife needs to be rethought and reconsidered, and look at other ways to make food delicious and nutritious, but not reliant on ocean or any other wildlife. We can only take so many songbirds and then they're gone. We can only take so many squid and then they're gone. Or so many sharks and then they're gone.
Well, sharks take such a long time. Most of them anyway and you guys probably have information on this too. They take a very long time to mature and to get to reproductive
20 years
fitness.
to grow up before they can even start making little ones. Chickens, you can make a chicken from a chicken in less than a year.
Yeah.
They start laying eggs that reproduce themselves.
All right, with one other question on kind of seafood related. Kayla is asking, have projects like Seafood Watch helped fish and invert consumption and focus on sustainable fishing, or is it mostly just being used in the US? I think it's mostly kind of a US thing, although you said there was one in New Zealand.
Now there's I think a growing effort to make smart choices based on what we now know that either we didn't know or we didn't think about until right about now. And part of it is sharks are disappearing. Tuna are disappearing. The bluefin tuna, when I was the chief scientist at NOAA in the 1990s, it was said that 90% were gone, only 10% remaining in the Atlantic. And it seemed about the same in the Pacific, in the Indian Ocean as well. But now in the Pacific, less than 3% of the bluefin tuna remain. And the other tunas, they're in that whole family with variations on the theme about, close to 60 kinds of tuna-like fish. And we love to eat every single kind of them. And they're all suffering, not because we eat them, but because we're eating so many of them.
Yeah,
and turning them into a commercial venture instead of just feeding families and communities. So
lots of work to be done.
Yeah. Ocean wildlife is in a crisis. It really is. If you look at where it was when I was a kid to where it is today, the only good news, I think, is with whales. We came to an agreement, an international moratorium on whales in 1986. Hasn't benefited all whales overall, but there are more humpbacks, there are more sperm whales, gradually, slowly, more blue whales. But it's going to take a long time. But if we ever get back to the numbers that were around before commercial whaling began 500 years or so ago, and the ocean's been around
much
much
longer
than humans, but our impact on the ocean is just drastic.
That's why, why the work that
doing.
y'all are doing is so vital, because we really need people to broadly understand those kind of big picture implications. And, the more diverse science becomes, the better off I think we'll all be.
Yeah, we now see that sharks, when they eat another fish, some people would say, "What? Those are our fish. Why are the sharks are
He
competing
gets so
with us?"
mad, the sharks are taking my fish.
But actually, the fish that go into making the shark put nutrients back into the ocean that power the phytoplankton, fertilizer, if you will. And it's true, it's an eat and be eaten world out there. It's true with the tunas. It's true with the whales. Their role in putting nutrients back in the system, it's like it is a system. It's give and take, and we have taken a lot more than we've given, and we've done it in such a short time. We have a wake-up call right now. We've got to protect the ocean.
And we have more questions.
Yes, let's listen to this.
So Draven is asking all of you, where are some reputable locations to swim with the sharks?
Ooh.
They're based in Pinellas County, Florida.
Well,
So what do you guys-
You're near
Oh.
us.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah.
Carlee.
Oh, well, the first thing I had thought of off the top of my head was Jupiter, Florida have a couple of shark tours, like swim with sharks, what are they called? Operators that run out of Jupiter, and a business that immediately comes to mind is Shark Safari. So look up Shark Safari. They have very good practices that, make it so it's safe for the sharks and for you. So Shark Safari in Jupiter, Florida. So if you're in Pinellas, that's just on the other side of Florida.
It's a drivable distance. Yeah.
Right. And I think the water actually, no, I don't know if the water's warmer on the other side, but.
Yeah, because they dive in the Gulf Stream, so it's warmer there. Yeah.
Well, check it out, because Palau values every shark they have to be worth at least $1 million, because people come there for the privilege of diving in and swimming with sharks.
Swimming with sharks. I think in Fiji, and of course down in Playa del Carmen and other areas like that, some places in the
Quintana Roo,
Bahamas.
Mexico.
Yeah, there's some
whale sharks.
people are starting to have more shark experiences for tourism, but it's that we really need that balance and kind of vetting, particularly I think by you guys, to kind of help people figure out like where are the best places and that are actually taking care of the sharks and doing a credible job of shark science as well as just shark tourism.
You can also, this came to mind, you can check out the American Shark Conservancy, which is also in Florida. They run shark surveys that directly contribute to their research, and they don't do anything that at least I would consider to be harmful to the sharks, which, like Carlee researched things like putting bait in the water and feeding them. I've heard it's a really great experience, and Deb, who we talked about, one of our MISS members, is the head on that grant, and her research is really cool, and I've heard those experiences are also really cool.
Excellent.
Yeah, I've done them. They're cool.
Across the board, the best place to see sharks is anywhere 50 years ago.
Well, that's true, but we don't have that option right now. So
Well, it's to make anywhere 50 years from now the way it was 50 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, stop killing them. For
it'd be really nice if at least like in our national marine sanctuaries, if we weren't fishing for sharks and having shark derbies and things like that, it'd be nice if at least in the sanctuaries the fish had protection, but oftentimes they don't.
So I'll say the sawfish on the upside, sawfish, a lot more divers are seeing sawfish than they have in the past, which is really exciting. The sawfish are seem to be doing well, which is good. So I know that we're getting a lot of reports of people seeing them and diving with them. I get people sending me Facebook posts and everything of people seeing them. So that makes me really happy and really excited for that critically endangered species, that like things are working. The gillnet ban in 1995, it worked. The Endangered Species Act, it's working. And hopefully we can keep going on that track. And hopefully we don't do what we sometimes do in the United States and go, oh, it's working, let's stop. And you're like, no, it was working. Keep
like
going.
with manatees, I mean, how did they fall off the endangered species list? I mean, it's just like, come on, So, okay, Laura has a very specific question. She is going to be applying for the Diversifying Ocean Sciences program Has been following Dr. Catherine McDonald's work for a few months and wants to know if she's going to be a mentor this year. And for estuaries or deep ocean concentrations. Do you know?
So Catherine is not a mentor this year. She was a mentor last year. This year, I am a mentor for the deep sea, as well as Dr. Lauren Semonitis. And then for the estuary, Dr. Matt Ogben and Allison Callwood, Dr. Allison Callwood at Smithsonian Environmental Research Center are the mentors for the estuarian science concentration.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, Grace is asking, can undergraduates very interested in shark science and hoping to pursue it further join MISS as a member?
Yes, please
Absolutely.
do.
That was easy.
That was an easy one. So, but I mean, how is there like an age limit? I mean, can kids who are in like, high school or even younger, can they join?
We
Or is
do
there-
have some high school members. I think a lot of our opportunities are more for 18 up, unless it's like some of our summer camps. But if you're for memberships, I know we definitely have high school members. Jasmine, do we have anyone younger than high school?
We have some parents that joined on behalf of their children. So yeah, we have high schoolers, and then we have a couple of like parents of middle schoolers that joined so that they could give the resources to their kids.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's
Cool.
excellent. That's an excellent thing. And the Women Divers Hall of Fame has some scholarships open right now for for women that want to just get like their diving certifications and then being able to tie it back to some groups like yours to apply those new skills in in the field.
Right.
Okay, Emily's asking, what are the important roles? This is a long one. You let them answer first. What are some important roles that sharks play in the ecosystem, and what are the consequences if they disappear? Any
This
of you?
is a great question. I guess I'll start. I saw Jasmine mute herself because I don't know. I guess she wanted to let us answer. It's fine. Sharks can play a lot of different roles in the ecosystems. They can be top predators. They can be some of our mid-level predators as well. And so they kind of help to regulate the populations of the lower trophic levels. So I guess as an example, if we're looking at, I like to use like the wolves in Yellowstone as a good example. So they took the wolves out of Yellowstone, and then the deer populations went crazy. They started eating all the vegetation, and it just drastically changed what Yellowstone was. It just drastically changed the environment. So then they were like, oh, obviously this is a problem. Let's reintroduce the wolves. The deer started, they helped control the deer population again. The deer started behaving differently because their predators were reintroduced, and things kind of went back to normal for the most part. So I think that's a really good example that we've seen happen in a terrestrial environment of what could happen in a marine environment as well. Like getting rid of our top predators and even some of those mid-level predators can really greatly affect the ecosystems that they're supposed to be in. So I get a lot of questions of like, what would the ocean look like without sharks? And I don't think that we can fully answer that question with every effect that could come, because I'm sure there's so many other effects that could happen that we haven't even really thought of yet. So I kind of like to just answer that question with, I'm not entirely sure, and I don't want to find out. So yeah. Does anyone else have something they want to add?
Yeah, I'll add that in addition, they also control where the prey feed. So like if you have, let's say, a bunch of parrotfish and they're just, feeding and feeding and grazing and eating all of the algae and stuff off the coral, if there's no sharks there, they have no reason to move. So they'll just stay in one place and overgraze on an area. And so predators provide this natural process that sort of forces the animals to move and change where they are eating. So they're not just all grazing in one place. So that's another impact. And so sharks are a really good indicator of a healthy ecosystem. So people sometimes will ask me like, are you afraid when you see a shark diving? And I'm like, no, I'm afraid when I don't see a shark diving. That's when there's a problem. That's when we should be scared.
Well, think of this. Because one of the factors that may have contributed to this advance of lionfish is the absence of sharks, the absence of big grouper and snappers. We've taken so much so fast, literally, since the 1950s and especially since the 1980s to the present time. The large fish of all sorts, but a special focus on the sharks. It's just been a downhill trajectory. So it varies from species to species, but overall, the estimate is like 90% of the sharks are gone. And that opened the door for a newcomer to say, hey, I can just
Proliferate.
Yeah, nobody's
eating me.
here.
Yeah.
So if they were the normal complement of sharks and big groupers and big snappers and other, the big predators,
Probably couldn't have got a
those little
foothold.
lionfish would never have gotten a chance to take off the way they have. Now it's going to be hard to put them back into the
bottle.
Back into the
Okay.
Pacific, but anyway.
We're kind of at the top of the hour, but there's two more questions we're gonna go through. So this is a fun one. I mean, I know everybody's gonna have a different answer. Lisa is asking, I have a question. If you were designing an underwater toy and you could only choose one shark to illustrate and represent sharks, which one would you pick? Everybody likes the whale shark, but
if I had to pick one to represent all sharks, I guess I know David Schiffman would want me to say the sandbar shark, and I'm specifically not going to say that because I think it's a very, all sharks are cool are cool sharks, but it's boring. So I'm going to go with maybe let's go with the scalloped hammerhead because they're migratory and because they're funny looking and because hammerheads are amazing. So yeah, let's go with scalloped hammerhead because they're fun.
Charismatic.
What are the other thoughts? What other sharks would you guys think would be a great toy?
A thresher shark would be an amazing toy. I can think of so many fun things that you could fling around if you had a thresher shark toy. It would be great. I'm sure parents would hate it because kids would be like beating up their siblings with thresher shark tails, but I think it would be fun.
You know what's really funny is I feel like Jasmine is usually like hammerheads all the way, and I'm usually like thresher sharks all the way, and we just kind of flipped just now, and I think that's really funny.
Carlee, what do you think?
I was wrestling between two different species. I was going to say the whale shark, then I was like, I won't say the whale shark. I'm going to go with the epaulet shark because they are super cute. A lot of people don't think sharks are cute, but until they see the epaulet. And I think it would be a fun underwater toy because they're also very colorful. And like they have these really big floppy pectoral fins. And I'm like envisioning those underwater toys that could be like those, what is it called? Those wooden toys that are like, that can bend, like just a little wooden epaulet shark would be so cute.
That would be very
Can I give a guess as to what Amani's going to say? Because I think she's going to say cookie cutter.
How did you know?
Because I know you.
Yeah, I'm thinking a cookie cutter. We'd have to make them like a little bit more cute because they're really not that attractive of a shark. But I was mostly thinking for like kind of like one of you said with, I imagine parents being upset at their kids because they're just running around with a toy that takes bites out of things, like little cookie bites, but also like I would love a cookie cutter stencil that I can make cookies with, Why not?
That'd be cool. It could be like shears, right? You could make it like a shark shear.
Exactly.
Shear.
Don't cookie cutters also aren't they bioluminescent?
Yeah, so it also glow in the dark. Pretty cool.
That's okay. Amazing.
It's almost Halloween, so maybe we have to have a shout out for the goblin shark,
Yep.
Cool. Big deep water sharks.
With a big snapping thing that could grab.
Yeah. Action toys.
Yeah.
So we can't pick one. I'm sorry. All right. And the last question. Oh, wait, now another one popped in. All right. This might have to be the last question now. Do you have a favorite Miss related moment since starting Miss?
I'm going to quickly say mine because it was something that actually happened this past weekend with Jasmine. So Jasmine was on a panel at an environmentalist event, and after the panel, I stayed to just like network with people. And this lady came up to me and she was like, "Hey, you're a Black girl, so I can assume you're a shark scientist, right?" And
Oh
I
my
was
God.
just like, "Yes, absolutely." Like you can easily assume I'm a shark scientist because I'm a Black girl. I've never gotten that in my life. And honestly, it was one of my favorite moments because it's kind of, if you Google shark scientist now on Google, a bunch of different Black and brown people come up. And before
Awesome.
it wasn't very diverse. So
No, not at all.
yeah. So that made me happy. And since we started Miss, we get a lot of DMs or emails from like little Black girls who are like, "Oh my gosh, like we saw y'all and we're so excited to be shark scientists now because we see ourselves represented pretty much." And yeah, those are some of my favorite moments.
That's the best. That's
That's
awesome.
a big blue, bravo.
So my favorite moment, so we had at our very first summer camp a camper, and so she was in high school at the time, and she had just moved to the United States, and so she didn't have a very strong command of English. And I do speak Spanish, so I was able to kind of help her through summer camp and everything. And then she actually did our she graduated high school. She enrolled in university and did our diversifying ocean sciences program, and now is well on her way to becoming a shark scientist. And that's pretty darn cool.
It is. Oh, that's getting results.
Yeah. All right. So we have run a little bit over. Any other first you guys or moments you guys want to talk about before we sign off?
I'll add one. I think I wanted to echo definitely what Carlee said, the moments of people reaching out and being like, "Our daughter like loves you, like you've made her realize like this is a career path for her if she wants it." To kind of be the representation that I didn't have growing up, I think is something really special. But on like a goofier note, I think one of my favorite ones was when we all first met in person for the first time. We got Chipotle, and I took one bite of my burrito and immediately spilled beans all over Carlee's floor. And Amani just goes, "I've known you for 30 minutes and you're already the least graceful person I know." And it was just the funniest thing ever. So this was just like a within us funny little miss moment, but that will always be one of my favorite interactions. I thought it was just the funniest thing ever.
I was just so glad to have you guys back, and kind of first meeting you all during the pandemic, and then knowing none of you ever met each other in person, and then then coming together and having such a huge impact in such a short period of time.
That we don't wait 3 years. How about let's rendezvous next year?
All
Let's
in person.
Sign us up.
Yes, exactly. But we have to go now. And before we close, we just want to say thank you to our producers, the Ocean Elders, all the women of Miss, all the new members of Miss, and everybody in the community that shows up and participates in these conversations. We're so grateful to you all. And just a reminder that this episode and past episodes are all available on the Ocean Elders YouTube channel. And remember to take care of the ocean as if
your life depends on it, because
it does. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you again, hopefully in November, if her travel allows it. And but we'll be diving in again soon. So thank you so much. Take care. Thank you, women of Miss.
Thank you.